Welcome to Breeders' Cup Preview Show number 1 of 3 that we'll be doing over the next few days. I'm Scott McKeever from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I will be your host for these 3 races or three series of shows, which we will have one guest on for all 14 Breeders' Cup races. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tonight we'll be covering all 5 Breeders' Cup races for Friday's card. So you're not going to want to miss that. And that's on November 4th, so this Friday. And starting with the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint for 2-year-olds, which we're going to be covering here with our first guest, Megan Devine, and formerly a colleague at TVG. And we ran into each other at TVG too a lot, mostly. And it's good to have you. You're part of the Eclipse Award-winning team at Horse Racing Radio Network. Megan works with rescue horses as well, which is pretty cool. Currently living in Kentucky, and we're going to talk about what she's currently doing right now, along with talking about this 5.5 furlong turf race here from Keeneland Park. So let's welcome in Megan. Megan, how are you?
Thanks, Scotty. Yeah, glad to be here. Again, like you said, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Typically, we were kind of passing in the hallways, changing shifts over there at TVG too. So good to see you here, and excited for all that you've done. And obviously, you've been keeping up with the racing, as have I. Although we are now in different places than we were when we saw each other last. But yeah, I'm super excited about the Breeders' Cup coming up this weekend. It should be a good one. I love that it's back here in Kentucky. It's a homecoming for the event, and the weather looks to be impeccable. In fact, it's going to be hot, if I can say that. I know you're in Florida, but still, it's going to be like 78 degrees in November in Kentucky. So I don't know that we're going to know what to do with ourselves.
You're going to have a good time. Now, are you actually going to go to Keeneland? Are you going to go to the races?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm always there in one way or another. I've worked with NBC for the past 10 years, so I'm there with them. I'm there doing other freelance video or radio stuff. And then my husband is the photographer at Keeneland, along with 30 other racetracks in the country. So we will be there covering everything head to toe.
So tell me real quickly about VidHorse. What's your company there?
Yeah, so in 2019, I founded my own company called VidHorse, and it was kind of cool because with my experience, obviously from the horse side of things, both with the on-air experience, but also being a rider myself, that's my background where I come from. I knew that part of the world, and then with my work with NBC and TVG, both in front of the camera and then behind the scenes as well, I kind of got to know a little bit more of the technology around it. So it's almost like restaurant owners aren't always the chefs, right? Or farmers don't really know how to use technology. And I find in our industry, it's a lot the same. So I really wanted to service the horsemen and women in this industry and the businesses that are around with what I knew from the video and technological standpoint. So we've done a really awesome job so far. I've been super excited and passionate about it, creating a lot of digital media content, filming, photography, commercials, walking videos, and confirmation shots. We were a huge part, and still are, do most of the marketing for My Racehorse and other companies too, both in and outside of the horse industry. So we've been integral, I think, in the growth of a lot of these, digital media companies that rely on that kind of content to really reach their audience and grow themselves.
How can people get a hold of you, Megan?
Yeah, well, you can get a hold of me at Megan Devine TV. Right there is my Twitter handle. Best way to find me. But also at VidHorse, we have a website as well. So you can check out vidhorse.com. And if you want to learn more about our services, or maybe you have a project that you would like to work with me on.
All right. So I have something serious to talk to you about. So you're about to have your first child, correct?
Yes, I am. I am like 3 weeks away from having a kid.
Wow. Now, this is your first child.
Yep, first one. It's a girl.
That's a girl. Okay, let me ask a question. Did you have a reveal party?
No, we're not that exciting. We actually found out, I took they have an at-home test now apparently, which is crazy. So we didn't know if it was accurate or not. And we took it, and then they email you your results. So my husband and I were standing in the tunnel at Churchill Downs, just the two of us before the races had started. I think it was on like Oaks Day. And we were like, okay, we're going to open the email 1, 2, 3. And so it was a little bit, not as exciting as like balloons popping off with colors inside of them. But
all right, so it's safe to say that your husband didn't have a diaper party, correct?
No.
All right, because that's actually the new thing now. These diaper parties for men.
don't think so. I've never heard of it. I don't even know what would go into that, but no, we did not.
All right, good. All right, let's jump into the race here. So
Okay.
here's a look at the wagering menu, first of all, for Friday. And thank you, Megan, for that as well. Brian is telling me that you provided that for us, so that was very kind of you. Thank you so much. And I have a feeling we're going to be working with you a lot more as well. So thank you for that.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Glad to see those photos up there.
Okay, so we've got the grade 1, 2-year-olds, $1 million Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. This is 5.5 on the turf. Now, you probably have some insight being back in Kentucky, maybe on how this course actually favors, whether it favors speed or not. What are kind of what are your general thoughts as far as the pace? And did you check out the EquinEdge pace? And I don't know, you've been using it for about 3 or 4 days now. Do you see how good this pace number is?
I mean, it's pretty cool. I am new to the technology that you have created there, Scotty, but I'm really excited about it for a variety of reasons. Pace, obviously, being something that I take into account a lot when I'm handicapping. I know you do too. A lot of people do. But even further into that, and I'll point out some things as we go through with some of the different ratings that you have. I thought that was really exciting. Obviously, Keeneland is such a lush, beautiful turf course, even though we've been in like a drought here in Kentucky. So, Churchill's had their issues with the turf course over there. Even in my own paddocks, everything is brown, but somehow Keeneland is gorgeous and the grass is nice and long and healthy and everything. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge biased person anyways. I think really it depends on the horses in the race. And with that said, you have so many European horses coming in here. So you do have quite a few unknowns. And, I think it's almost even more confusing because you have some European speed horses, right? You've got like Lady Hollywood, but how much does their speed stack up against the speed horses that we have here in the US? That's always the question mark because we do tend to break a little bit quicker from the gauges with the running styles. So I think it's going to be interesting. I do think Love Reigns is going to be the quickest of them all personally. But she obviously doesn't have to be because she sat off the pace just a little bit last time. I know Tyler's Tribe was at the top there. You just had that in the last screen with the pace, but I'm not a Tyler's Tribe fan on either surface. I feel bad for this horse. I know this is a huge knock, but he's going to lose anyways. Like, let him lose on his own surface. You know what I mean? So I don't know what
I'm with you, by the way. This
he
horse
worked so terribly on the turf twice. After the first one, you think, all right, but I get it. They're trying to shorten. They don't want to go the longer distance, whatever. But like, let him lose on something he knows, man.
Well, we'll look at the GSR. So the GSR is our genetic strength rating, and you can see that this horse is, first of all, Prairie Meadows, which I doubt you're going to see many horses coming from Prairie Meadows, undefeated or not, coming here and winning over at Keeneland on this circuit. But that being said as well, if you look at the breeding of this horse, our genetic strength rating says 79 on the dirt and drops 63 on the turf. And this horse has one way of going, pretty much on the lead, can rate a little bit, but there is so much speed lined up and mostly to the outside in this race, which is why I kind of think maybe a horse like Love Reigns, Oxymore, I give a big look to, the number 7 horse too. Who are you leaning towards in this race?
Yeah, I really like Love Reigns as well. I mean, she just seems like she is the horse to beat, honestly. She was impressive at Saratoga when she won. Obviously, she was favored that day in the stakes race that she was in on the turf course at 5.5 furlongs. And some people are saying, well, she hasn't worked since that race, which was back in August. But Wesley Ward has won the last 3 editions of this race. He has also won it with Twilight Gleaming and also with Golden Pal. Both of those horses had their last start before this race in the Breeders' Cup in August. So this is just the exact path that's worked for Wesley Ward before. I watched her work at Keeneland around the dogs. I think it was on the 28th, and I hated it. But it was because she didn't really look like she was putting much into it. She didn't switch leads, but she was also being held and wasn't asked to do very much. So I don't really consider it even a work. It was just kind of like a strong gallop that I think they have so much horse, they just don't really care. So it wasn't, you obviously want to see a horse go through the paces, but she hasn't had a lead changing problem before, and it was around the dogs. So, they're kind of leaning a little bit more. I think they just have so much horse that they're just waiting for the day to come, honestly.
Well, and that's a really good point, by the way, too, because when you look at that work and you're seeing 108, it's around the dogs because they're not even trying. I think I'd be a little bit concerned maybe why they're not changing leads, but I don't think it's going to matter. And I think Wesley Ward and, you got Irad Ortiz. They're going to be really tough in the opener here.
Yeah.
And Irad actually gets off the 9 horse for Doug O'Neill, the sharp Aztec. That's not a bad horse. So, I mean, and I really do think that the 9 horse sharp Aztec is going to be part of that pace. You're going to see the 10 horse, the 11 horse, Bushido, the 13, sharp Aztec. These 4 horses are going to be flying. My next question for you is this 11 horse Speedboat Beach, because this horse is a Bob Baffert horse. The horse can braid a little bit, but that 13 to the outside is so fast. The 10 is fast. The 9 is fast. There's going to be a lot of speed to the outside. What do you make of Speedboat Beach, and what kind of trip does this horse get?
I mean, you're right. He's obviously fast. He's we're talking about a Bob Baffert 2-year-old in the turf. This is so weird. I mean, this is one of the big horses he brings over here. There's no question this horse is fast. The numbers that he's run both on the dirt and the turf, by the way, which I almost prefer his dirt race with the numbers that he put up there at Del Mar. He's worked really well. Granted, he hasn't worked on the turf course because they don't work on the turf course at Santa Anita, and that's where he's done, most of his preparation here. But I don't know. I think he's fast. I just prefer others in here. Like you said, you're going to have so much speed, and he's going to be involved in that. He's never really sat off the pace before. I think he looks like a horse that's a little bit full of himself. I think he still has a bit to learn. And then you've got, the Platinum Queen on the outside too, who I do really like, but has also never been around a turn before. So that's another speed horse. Granted, it's European speed, but you've got that all around him too. So he's got Tyler Schreiber on his inside. He's got the Platinum Queen on his outside. Both those horses are going to break. He's going to go right there with them. And even though Flavien Prat is an excellent, tactical rider, and you could put him anywhere, I think he's going to have a little bit of a hard time with a horse like that, trying to take him off of that speed. So I think he's another horse that's just involved in that, let's call it a pace stool, is what it looks like it's shaping up to be, which is another reason I kind of went back time and time again to love Reigns. And I did like Private Creed quite a bit as well, who's should be even further off the pace.
I'm with you on Private Creed, the 3 horse. But before we get to Private Creed, and I want to get to him, I want to talk about Mischief Magic, which Charles Appleby is obviously one of the top conditioners in the world. And when him and William Buick come over here, I mean, they're 54%. But how do we judge a horse like this? We've got this horse at 7-2 on the EquinEdge morning line. You can clearly see the jockey and trainer win percentages as individuals. I mean, this horse clearly has talent. How do you judge a horse like this in a race like this?
I don't know, because like you said, you've got Charlie Appleby, you've got William Buick. This Godolphin trainee certainly looks like this horse has potential. The maiden race was impressive. And then obviously the race at Newmarket too, winning by 6 legs. That was this horse's best effort, I think. You go to Kempton. That was certainly a Group 3 race, which has a lot of accolades with it. You're coming in with some of that black type form, but it was also on the synthetic too. So, what do you do with a horse like this that, again, some of the better efforts, in fact, the better efforts have come on synthetic and on straight courses and at a distance that's longer than what we're going to be running here. So Charlie Appleby is an excellent trainer, and he's going to have to be, I think, to get a horse like this to beat this particular field that we're dealing with in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint.
So, all right, we're going to bring in your picks here. So let's talk about you like Love Reigns, you like Private Creed and the Platinum Queen, but let's talk about Private Creed, because I thought this horse looked good as well. I think there's, on the inside, going to get some pace to chase. These are tougher than what he's been facing, but I think he deserves a big look. And I think Rosario is going to have a really big weekend as well.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I was looking through some of your ratings that you have there, and I also found it pretty cool because, Scotty, I mean, you know me, I'm huge into bloodlines. I do a lot of research with that. If anybody tuned into my Ellis stuff this summer, we were all about the 2-year-olds, all about the bloodlines there, but also all about the ratings that you have as far as how good those races were. I think that's your not your GSR, but the race. SOR. Is that what you call it? Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I do my own rating with that. I mean, there's plenty of graded stakes races or stakes races that you look at and you're like, that's not really a grade 1, Exactly. And I think if you keep that kind of tab either on your own and your handicapping with whatever your notes do, or if you use a system like this, and you don't have the time to kind of watch each and every race every day, That's a huge part of figuring out where these horses actually fit, whether it's in your handicapping or in the makeup of a race like this. So I'm a
Right.
huge fan of those two particular tools.
Me
And I
too.
thought with Private Creed too, his races, yeah, maybe it wasn't as tough as the Saratoga race for Love Reigns, but the last race, at least at Keeneland in the Indian Summer, that was a pretty decent field of horses. And I thought he fit well within the rest of the group, at least if you're going off of some of those ratings you have.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I other than the SOR being a little bit low, which is our class rating, and real quickly, the way that was derived was when I looked at past performances, I saw the 3 names of horses in there, and the reason I bring this point up is because you kind of did. You don't know how strong those races are, so this is
Right.
why I thought it was important to have a class number, which is our strength of race, because every
Yeah.
32,000 maiden claimer is not the same. Different horses are entered into each of those races, so. And it's very tough to judge all that if you don't have a simple number. So we've made it simple from 1 to 100. So, but yeah, that was the only thing that threw me off with Private Creed. But I don't necessarily think this is that strong a group, anyways. And this horse is definitely going to get some pace. But why the Platinum Queen from that post position? How are you looking at this horse, and what kind of trip is this horse going to get?
For Private Creed, you're talking about
the Platinum Queen.
Your Platinum Queen. I mean, for me, it was like, I picked a European, right? I mean, I certainly like the horse. You're coming in with a Group 1 winner, so you have to like that at Longchamp.
Right.
With Holly Doyle first and second, just peppered throughout the form. So I thought, all right, this is the turf race here. If we're going to include a Euro, I think the connections with this one, with Holly Doyle, with Richard Fahey, how do we say that?
I think it's Fahey.
I don't know. All right, we'll go with that. I think certainly factor in. Obviously, this is a filly we're talking about against the boys, which with 2-year-olds, I don't seem to mind as much because I do think you can have that precocious type with some of those females. We see Wesley Ward do that all the time. So I'm okay with it. But again, this is a horse that's never been around a turn. I just felt like she seemed like she had it both physically and also mentally. She's led before, we've talked about that. She's been in some big races. I think her strength of races factors in there. So I put her in, but it does concern me because she is part of that pace scenario, which kind of brings me back to a horse like Private Creed, who honestly was under such a big hold last time too. I know that was just a listed stakes race at Keeneland, but I mean, that horse was bottled up by Rosario most of the way. And then he just kind of got let out a little bit and not even really asked to do too much. And he was still able to set a stakes record. Granted, that race has only been run since 2018, but you've had some nice horses winning there, like Kamari. You've had, I think it was Averly Jane also for Wesley Ward. So, I really like the fact that Private Creed comes from off the pace. They added the blinkers the past 2 races. Those have been the 2 better races for this horse. And if he doesn't run big this day, he's actually quite a bigger bodied type of a horse as compared to what you usually see turf sprinters. You kind of think that compact, tight body type that can really use that hind end and push off of there. But he's got a little bit of leg to him. He's kind of like a big kid playing out there, and yet he still has so much speed. I don't know if I'm partial to him just because he broke his maiden at Ellis, but I've really liked the progression that we've seen from this horse. And I think he's, if not the best, one of the best horses we've seen come out of that meet. So he's held his own. He's done well at Kentucky Downs and third at Saratoga. That's not too bad against some of these horses. And then coming in with a win right there at the track that he's going to run at. I think you like that local form.
Well, I will tell you this, visually speaking, it was very impressive what Private Creed did. So I'm hoping that he runs a good race. So Megan, I hope this is not the first time that we can have you on. The insights you brought were tremendous, and it's really nice to talk to you and have you be on the show. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, Scott, thanks so much. Excited for everything that you guys are doing, and best of luck Raiders Cup week. Hopefully, I'll see you sometime around.
All right, we'll definitely be talking to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good.
All right, Megan Devine, everybody. Thanks, Megan, for coming on. She had some really good insight too on bringing in some of like the track records and things like that. Like, I remember, so I worked a lot of TVG too. They had me on the second shift, but I would come in there and she would be in there and we would just kind of cross paths. And so we're going to move on here now. So we're actually going to skip and we're going to bring in Michelle because she's on the East Coast and she's busier than hell right now. So we're going to cover race number 8 at Keeneland with Michelle. What a career that you've had, Michelle. What you've done here in this short time is just amazing. You're so young, and you're definitely one of the more personable people and my favorite people, not just in horse racing, just in general. For those of you that don't know Michelle, wife to trainer Ryan Hansen, doting mother for sure. Co-hosted the Eclipse Awards last season, which was insane. How the heck are you?
I am so ready for bed right now.
I know you are.
I'm literally in my pajamas and like hair, like just got out of the shower, like ready to go to sleep.
No, well, thank you so much, Michelle. I know you're hanging in there for us, for me and Brian, and we really.
Well, no, not for DeQuay, just for you, Scotty.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Well, I wanted to talk to you about, because I don't think a lot of people know about Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup show that airs on FanDuel. Can you maybe just explain a little bit about that for our audience?
Yeah, so Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup we started it last weekend, and we have followed all of the horses at 3 major racetracks through their last work. So we were on site at Santa Anita, we've been on site at Keeneland, we're on site at Churchill, and not only are we bringing you works, and there's definitely some analysis going on, but we are dissecting the works, talking about, the little intricacies, explaining things. We're super active on social media. So like if you tell me, hey, can you go kiss Private Cree on the nose? I'm trooping my butt down there and I'm smooching him right on the snoz. So, we try to be really involved and active with like the horses and the people and do different things. I mean, like, today I'm walking up with Graham Motion and side by side with the horse. Andy Biancone's on horseback and she's ponying slammed before her work. And, I was interviewing Chad Brown today and Brad Cox walks in. So it's really fun and off the cuff. And it's not like, tell me about your horse. And it's more like, we've had banter with Mike McCarthy and Todd Pletcher tells us what he ate for breakfast and, what everybody's doing for fun. It's not just like your run of the mill boring handicapping. If you don't like that, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. And it's been really great. So we still have a couple more days of it and it starts 7 a.m. Eastern time every single day and it goes till 10.
Well, and yeah, you want to check that out. That's a lot of fun. And so tell me about so you're still doing Santa Anita Sport of the Kings, right? With Peter Lurie?
Yes, I am the Santa Anita simulcast co-host.
Yeah. And you've been doing that for a while now. Like, does that still motivate you? Do you still enjoy that?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love being at Santa Anita and I feel very lucky to have a career in this sport that, even when I'm not working, I'm obsessed with. And I think it's fantastic that I get to stay in one spot. I spent a lot of time on the East Coast and it involved moving to multiple tracks and everything. And one of the big moving factors in my life moving back to California was when I got a job offer at TVG and it was like, hey, you get to stay in one spot and then like travel bits here and there instead of like move. So that was, great. And I love Santa Anita. And I think that a lot of people that watch racing, even though sometimes we take some flack, I think that a lot of people still love Santa Anita and they know like how good Santa Anita is.
It's the best. No, I mean, if you've never been to Santa Anita, it's probably the prettiest track I've ever been to in my life. So I'm with you. I had sushi with Peter Lurie, I don't know, a number of times. I mean, I said, let's get something to eat. Always sushi. Oh, and he knows all the sous chefs. You should see, he's a riot. Like he knows everybody. I'll have this. And he's fantastic to go out to eat with.
So he and I went to dim sum, right? Because we both like dim sum, which if you haven't had it is like a Chinese brunch. And they have these ladies and they push carts around. And then they have like 100 plates on the carts and they lift up, do, and they like show you what's in and you order it. So like, I don't know if Pete didn't know, but I'm like Chinese, raised in a Chinese household, so he was like, we're going to go to dim sum. So we go and he's like, yes, I'll have the dumplings. And meanwhile, I'm like speaking Chinese, ordering like 9 different dishes. He's like, have you done this? I'm like, yeah, Pete. He's like, I'm going to let you take over from here.
Michelle, you got to work on him. I tried to get him to use EquinEdge and he doesn't even barely know how to use a darn computer.
Oh no, he can't. Scotty, let me tell you, he'll be like, Michelle, my phone is just black. I'm like, have you charged it, Pete? And he's like, what's that? And I'm like, here's your charger. I mean, he's like completely tech not savvy.
He's not.
He can't even he reads Briz. And if I give him DRF, he's like, what is this?
Yeah, no, I know. But listen to this story. So we went on a range golfing And Pete can't golf. He's like, I got to get better at golfing. So I'm okay. I mean, I'd probably shoot 92, so I'm not terrible, but I'm not a teacher. So he goes, hey, I need some lessons. So we get the clubs, we go, and I'm trying to give him lessons, and I'm trying to move my hips, and I'm shaking my hips, and next thing you know, this guy behind is laughing. He's laughing at us, and I look back, and do you know who Jack Wagner is? The old actor that was in.
Oh yeah, Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah,
exactly. So, I think he was in Days of Our Lives, or I don't know, one of those, something like that. But he's really good looking and famous and stuff like that. Anyways, he starts laughing at me, and he comes up and he goes, you asked Pete this story. It was so hilarious. I'm shaking my hips, and he's laughing. He's going, I don't know, because he's a scratch golfer. He goes, I don't know what the hell this is. And he starts teasing me, and he says, here goes, hey, what's your Twitter? I'm going to follow you on Twitter. And then he was really, really nice. But it was a funny story between Pete and I. But all right, let's get into the handicapping, because I know you probably want to go to sleep. You've got a busy day tomorrow morning early. We've got the fillies, 2 years old. And this is, of course, grade 1.
That's the turf. I thought we were doing.
What are we covering?
I think we're doing the juvenile fillies.
You want to cover this is the juvenile fillies.
This is juvenile fillies turf.
Turf. We're doing that, right?
Well, I thought we were doing dirt. If we're doing turf, that's fine. We'll pivot, but
we can do whatever. What do you want to do? What race?
I don't care.
Let's do this one.
Okay.
Dirt. Okay, no, we want to go to dirt. Hold on here.
That's dirt.
There we go. All right. So
wait. Can we just real quick go back to the turf? Quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So just real quick, going back to the turf. Why is Pleasant Passage at the top right there for you?
Okay. So no, I sorted the win percentage because it's 22%, which is obviously not high. And it's also the EquinEdge long shot. It's also got the top SOR, strength of race, and it has the top GSR. I mean, I think this horse is a player.
Okay, so literally the first day I got to Keeneland 2 days ago or whatever, I saw this horse and I was like, who is that? And I literally ran down the apron to find out who she was, right? And I barely saw the edge of her saddle towel. So I waited for her to come around again, and it was Pleasant Passage. And I was like, okay, the last time I felt that way about a horse on track, it was Vino Rosso before he won the Classic. Sensational. So I haven't heard one person talk about her. So in my head, I'm thinking I'm going to get 12-1, maybe more, especially when everyone goes after Meditate. And then I see her at the top of your list. So I had to ask, because now I feel uber smart.
Yeah, no, I mean, look at that. I mean, the numbers don't lie. And our EquinEdge morning line 7-1. So I think you'll probably get around 7-1 is my guess. And I like the 10 as well. I do like Meditate, but I'm a big Aidan O'Brien fan. So, but I'll cover those. I didn't know what to make about this G. Laurie horse. This Woodbine race, this Natalma grade 1, I didn't think it was very strong, but it's EquinEdge's top pick. You know anything about this horse?
I don't know much about it. I'm never a fan of the Woodbine grade 1s because they have good sized fields generally, but I don't feel you see those horses progress much. And maybe it's just the way the track is. I'm not sure, but I always take those races with a smidgen of salt.
I agree with you. They just don't seem to take that form out of the country. So I'm with you on that. All right. Anything else you want to talk about on this race?
No, it was literally just Pleasant Passage that I wanted to talk about.
Cool. Okay. So in this race, I thought personally this was a 2-horse race. I really thought Wonder Wheel and Chop Chop were the horses, but maybe if there's a long shot, I think it's Raging Sea, the EquinEdge long shot. I normally go against the EquinEdge picks, but Pratt's taken over on the 14 horse. Now I hate the post. Do you think a horse from the 14 post, from where the starting point is, going 8.5 furlongs, can win this race?
I mean, it's really hard, right? Because Keeneland already has a short stretch, and you just end up in, I feel no man's land or way behind everybody. Now, I also feel Raging Sea has a pedigree that she wants to go longer. Maybe being parked way on the outside isn't going to hurt her if she can get herself kind of into the clear and just rolling. I used her in my top picks, but I was just really turned off by the post. I love that Pratt's back on her because I just feel Pratt gets a lot out of his horses, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. It's a very fine edge. I feel like if you're going to get a decent price on her, you play her because she's got great connections, and I think she's a quality animal. But you just can't love her if she's below 5-1 or anything because of her post.
I agree with you, but if you leave her out, she's probably going to beat you. Like
Right.
She definitely is a very, very nice horse. So the only thing against her is that post position. So if Pratt finds a way to get this horse a trip, she could win the race. Especially, I think there's more speed for Wonder Wheel in here, don't you? I mean, Wonder Wheel is very fast, and I think she's a wonderful horse. But I think the 2 is going to go. You're My Girl, Grand Love might go. There's some speed in here, and and that could set it up for a horse like Raging Sea. I don't know. What do you think?
So I'm not a Wonder Wheel fan. I'm not going to use Wonder Wheel. I don't think that she comes back and wins despite the Alcibiades. I mean, now she hasn't done anything wrong really, right? In the spin away, Mark Cassey has come out and said like, oh, she wasn't cranked up and ready to go off the layoff. So can we give her an excuse? Surely. But, like you just mentioned, she went to the front and she just kind of went out there and she held on. I don't think that she's going to have a lone lead. I just don't foresee Wonder Wheel doubling up here. There's others I like better, and my top pick's actually Chocolate Gelato in here. I think that if you go back and watch her debut race, she was so unlucky not to win that day, and she was heavily backed, and I feel like she was ready to win, and she just didn't get like the trip that they wanted. And I think like you saw that next time out when she crushed to win her maiden. I love the fact that she came on and she won in the slop next, because to me, some of these horses that can win on 1 surface, 2 surface, 3 surfaces, you're showing just your versatility. And she broke her maiden gate to wire. Now, I mean, anytime you do that, you'd think, okay, well, they could just be precocious. But when she won the Frisette, she came from out of it in the slop. That shows tenacity, and it shows a horse that's like showing some maturation. So, I mean, I like Chocolate Gelato a lot in here. First time 2 turns for her since the Frisette's a 1-turn race, but looking at her, I just don't think she's not going to handle it. Maybe Practical Joke doesn't scream like route, but her down was rowdy. So it's there. It's there to get her there.
Let's see. So I was going to ask you about the 1-turn mile as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this horse can go long. I don't think the 2 turns will be a problem at all. I have an interesting horse here. Look at the GSR on this 10 or the Estate horse automatically. That 94.
Atomically.
Atomically. Excuse me. I've never seen a 94 GSR before. So no, I was just really curious about what you might have thought about this horse. I mean, she really hasn't done anything wrong
except run against Florida. It's exclusive.
No, that's true. That's a good point. I mean, but she's done it easily, and she's done her job. And Saez gets aboard for Todd Pletcher. I just didn't know what to think about this horse. Incredibly nicely bred horse, and has a big GSR, of course. So, all right.
I can't believe that Gervin has actually been as successful as he's been. I mean, he just jumped off the mark, and I feel like surprised a lot of people. And his offspring are runners. Now, but this is like such a big step up in class. She had to get a huge number, because did you go back and watch what was it called? The My Dear Girl, the last race she won? I
did.
I mean, she was getting a hot dog the whole time, right? So yes. She won by open lengths. Think about if she had like a good trip, she could have possibly won by more. But I just don't think she's beating anything.
How much video are you watching these days? Do you watch a lot of video?
Oh my gosh. I spent like 6 hours today watching video. I'll tell you, my frustrating thing is that I can't watch Churchill replays on my DRF.
Right. Yeah.
So it's I have to like YouTube and like hope someone's like taped it off their television or something.
Exactly. I know.
If anyone wants to lend me their RTN login, I mean, send it on over.
The politics of it are kind of frustrating at times here. Hopefully they're going to start opening that stuff up,
Yeah, I agree. And then you mentioned Chop Chop. So I like Chop Chop in here too. I like Chop Chop. I mean, you go turf. Okay, so you go turf to dirt, right? And you have a horse, and this is very similar to what I was talking about with Chocolate Gelato. She's been forwardly placed in the grass. So the very first time she gets on dirt, she doesn't break, and she is behind. I mean, she is behind. Like for a turf horse to come from behind and run into dirt pelting you in the face, and she closed she was boom, boom, boom. She was making up ground. You just have to love this horse next time. If she breaks, she's gonna be right there, right? I wish, though, going back and looking at that, I was hoping to see like a gate drill from her. Now, I'm sure, like, knowing Brad, he schooled her in the gate, but like I wanted to see even just like a little like pop out of the gate, because it's not like she missed the break or anything like that. But like when they're not sharp, I just want to have that like extra step. Brad did tell me he's schooling at the gate tomorrow morning. So I'm waking up early to go out to the gate before our show starts, so I can watch all his horses school, and I'm going to badger him about that.
Well, I don't know that he's thinking that she has an issue at the gate. I know she broke a little bit slow in that race, but and I didn't watch in detail the start. I did see a slow break, but in the first 2 races, there were no gate issues whatsoever. So, and maybe that was on turf, but this horse is so well bred. It's crazy. Look at these GSR numbers. It's one of the most well-bred fillies I've seen. This is the horse to beat in the race, bar none. To me, hands down. But I would single. But the problem with this is I just have it's against my religion to single a horse that has to come from this far back.
She doesn't have to come from that far back. That's the beauty.
That's true.
Right?
Maybe not. But then what happens is then you think that she's going to have that same kick if she's close to the pace. I don't know, but there's a lot going for her. But she's going to have to pass 13 horses and find a way on that stretch. It's not going to be easy, but she is super, super talented. And like I said, I think Rosario is going to have an amazing weekend. I really do. So
your GSR rates them on pedigree?
Yes. So the GSR goes back 3 generations of the entire family. It goes back.
Her dam was unraced, right?
Yep.
And then
going back to her father and her mother and her cousins and things like that. So it's going back every single horse, 3 generations, both top and bottom. Cool. And we've taken that and made it one single number. And our GSR could be a win percentage. The top GSR wins 25% of the time. Now, I don't use it like that, but it's wonderful to use for horses doing something for the first time, like a horse going on turf for the first time, something like that. But if you look at this grid, look at this. This horse has no synthetic breeding, but the dirt and turf tabs, 90 on the turf and 86 on the dirt, it's just incredible. You just don't see this very often. She is something else. If she gets the trip, you're not going to stop her. And especially, there's going to be pace in this race for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure, there's going to be pace in this race. Multiple horses want to go to the lead in here, right?
Multiple. I agree.
For sure.
I agree. And I think the Chocolate Gelato is an interesting horse. I just didn't know it was a small field, and I didn't know what to make of the 1-turn mile in the slop, but it got a really nice SOR rate. Look, it's an 80, which is really, really solid on our numbers anyway. So I would imagine, and of course, Irad Ortiz. What's the over-under on Irad as far as wins over the weekend?
Oh, I think it's like 5.
Yeah, probably, right?
Especially if you're including undercard races, right? Like, it's got to be.
It's got to be. All right. You're the best. Thanks you for coming on. We're so glad to have you. And I wish you all the best. And I'm going to be tuning in tomorrow morning, as I'm sure a lot of people that are watching right now. So good luck and have a lot of fun. Okay.
Thanks, Scotty. Appreciate you having me on. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, Michelle. We'll see you. Bye. All right, Michelle, you just the best. She was tired, but she hung in with us, and that was really cool of her. So, all right. So our next guest, he's the one. The next guest is the one that brought the booms to the site. So whenever we have our show EquinEdge Live and we're hitting stuff, and everyone's doing boom, 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 this is the next guest. He also was part of the Good Chalk, Bad Chalk team and then also I'm sure going to be part of a show coming soon. He also works and helps me with the coaching classes as well. So bring in the man. I love him to death. Justin Sampson, just such a generous guy. And what's amazing is, Justin, you've only been in horse racing for 8 years. That's insane to me. You're so polished as a handicapper. You love your horizontal bets. You're very convicted. You bet small money to win big money. How are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I love you too. Yeah, it's I love the passion though, and I think how difficult it is, right? This is my Breeders' Cup is my favorite days of racing. I take off work, right, to get ready for this stuff. And it's such a tough sport, but so fun, and I just you know me, man. I'm such a huge user of the tool in like various angles. And I always tell people, play with no fear, right? Like if you like a 30-1 single, do it. Like, I mean, it's, you have to, because it's just such a tough game, right? And we've all done it. But I appreciate you having me on and looking forward to going through it.
Okay, what are we going to cover?
We're doing race 8, even though you tried to do it before.
Michelle. Okay, well, I'm curious what you like, but Michelle gave us some really good information on the 5-horse Pleasant Passage. So, all right, so go for it. What do we got?
Yeah, so she talked a little bit about this, but in my mind, you have the 5 and the 4 and the 6 and I think the 16 all coming out of that big A race, and was I think a 78 SOR, and then you have a handful
the Miss Griot.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The Miss Griot all coming out of that race. A very tough SOR race though. And I watched that race. I watched a little bit of video today for all of the horses here. In my opinion, I think the 4 and 5 are the best two still coming out of that race. I actually like Free Look. And before we get to Free Look, you then have a handful of horses coming out of the Woodbine Grade 1 race, which Michelle talked about that. Every time I've bet horses that come out of Woodbine and those graded sticks, they don't run well. I decided I'm just not going that route this year. And I like Free Look over Pleasant Passage. The only thing I would say on Pleasant Passage is you have a lot of EquinEdge algorithms that are lining up here. You have Top Win, you have EquinEdge Long Shot, you have the Top GSR, you have IRAD, you have a morning line angle at 7-1 to 12-1. I normally play these all day, and I think that she's going to run really well. I love Michelle's comments even on her and running down the track to see who it was. I think that Free Look might turn the tables here. I think that Pleasant Passage got an easy lead last out, and Free Look tried to set off. I don't know. That's not going to happen, I don't think. Even though Pleasant Passage has the top pace number, I would expect a little more pace to come here. I think that the 7, the 8 could show pace. I think 100% the 12 is going to show pace from the outside. I personally think Free Look with Pratt is going to give an amazing trip. Both of those maiden races for Free Look were very nice. So the first one, awful start, got pushed way back, came on flying, and barely missed. The second race at Saratoga there, she ended up winning very nicely. And then I just think that Pleasant Passage got a really nice pace advantage and just went gate to wire in that last race.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I will tell you, it's really hard. I struggle with Meditate, the 10 horse for Aiden O'Brien and Ryan Moore. If you look at the class that she's coming out of overseas, she's legit. I mean, if you look at the horses she lost to in those last 2 races, I think last out was a horse by the name of Lezo. And prior to that was a really, really nice filly that everybody's talking up. My only concern with her is trying to work out a trip. I am not a fan of the 1 and 2 posts, and I'm not a fan of the outside posts. So, but I think she has a huge shot. So for me, I put Free Look on top. I think the 10 Meditate's going to run big. I think the 5 Pleasant Passage will run big. I also think that the 11, who is the top EquinEdge pick, even though it's coming out of Woodbine, had a tough trip in that grade 1 race. And I think she can really improve. She does add blinkers for ground motion. Buick's riding. So, I mean, you're getting an amazing jock who's coming over. I think that she can really improve here. I almost wanted to put her on top or put the 10 on top, but I'm just not sure about the outside post. I think Pratt's going to give Free Look just an amazing trip, be able to sit the trip. I do think there's going to be some more speed. The only other thing I'll comment, then I'll pause and would love to just dialogue with you is Free Look's maiden special race. That race at Saratoga that she won brought back 4 winners and a second place horse. If you look at Pleasant Passage's maiden special weight win, it was a fairly weak race. SOR comes back here better with Free Look. So even though Pleasant Passage beat Free Look last out, I think that she just got advantage with the pace. And I'm just trying to flip the tables here and think Pratt might be able to flip the tables on Irad.
Yeah, I think that Free Look's gonna run a good race, but this the 10 horse Meditate really has class. It's the class of the field for sure. The other ones have some potential, but Meditate really is top class. I mean, I thought Michelle made some really good points about Pleasant Passage. And a lot of times you can't look at a race like this and go, okay, this one lost by 3/4. This one, there's a lot more factors in, like what is the GSR doing? How is the horse coming into the race? And I think that the 10 horse Meditate, they're bringing this horse here for a reason. I mean, you're talking about, look at this horse. I mean, it's first or second in all 6 tries, 4 wins, 2 seconds against much better field than what's lined up here. I think Meditate is the horse to beat. You can bet Aidan O'Brien's going to have this one ready to go. I really do think she's the horse to beat. I think for whatever reason, the EquinEdge system a lot of times takes these horses from Canada, and for whatever reason, I don't know if they're the high purses or what they are, but they always seem to be a little bit overrated on our system. And so for that reason, I'm going to pass on the 3 and the 11. And I really do think the race, you can probably sort the EquinEdge morning line, or you can sort the win percentage and find the winner. So if you sort the win percentages alone, I was doing this the other day. I don't know if you've ever done this. And it seems like the top 4 EquinEdge morning lines or top 4 win percentages, often the same, are the winners here. And I'm going to take the top 4 win percentages. I'm going to tell you that the 4, 5, 6, or 10 is going to win this race.
My only so on Meditate, I'm with you on the class. I mean, and I flip back to Handy View real quick, and in the coaching classes on Meditate, the 10. Okay. The coaching classes the last 2 Saturdays, we've been talking the use of Handy View. So for everybody, like a little bit of chiming in on Handy View, you can find out so much on the screen. I love it. And the crazy thing on the SOR perspective for that Newmarket race on September 24th versus Lezo, that came back as an 86. And I think you're on staging, but
I'm on staging right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So if any of the current users, it was an 86, which I was like, wow, holy crap. I mean, that's
okay. Let's look at that. I actually have that right now. We'll take a look at that. Okay. So 86 on the SOR. That's just insane. Wow.
And that's 2 race back on September 11th as a 64, she faced, and I was trying to drop, I have the name here. She faced this nice filly called Tahira, who a lot of people are high on, who didn't chip over, right? That's why Meditate is here, because that was the win in your in race. And super nice filly. So I'm with you. She's going to be very tough. My only knock of her, which might not be truly justified, is if you look at GSR Plus, is she, 2 knocks. 1, Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, 0 for 7, They
are.
And Euros have only won this race 2 out of the last 14 times. So I'm like, okay, I know the sprint is a heavy Euro race. Here it's a little bit different. She excels at 6 to 7 furlongs. And so that was my only But what I would say is sometimes I personally have put too much value here, and a horse still does run 2 churns because she is still a very nicely bred horse at a 76. She's just been racing at her exact preferred distance. And that was my only question mark with her, because I almost put her on top. I mean, I was very close, and then I flipped.
You know what's interesting to me too, if I'm looking at this now, that 86 SOR is such a high number. That competition is tremendous. There's nothing in here like that. Like if this is real and this number is really solid, and I think our numbers are getting better at the foreign horses, which we're working on. That's great. What doesn't jive with me though is a nice 2-year-old, a top-notch 2-year-old that you would run this horse on August 20th, September 11th. I mean, 2 weeks later on September 24th, like 3 races inside of a month. Like, yeah. And then now you're having the horse travel. I don't know. There is that, but I saw this as well, but I'm looking at this going, really? I mean, think about that. If you had a horse that was top notch, would you run it 3 times in a month? I don't know.
No, I mean, especially if you plan on shipping over, right? And you are jumping into $1 million Breeders' Cup race. I was not a fan of the 1 at all, shipping in from California. That's going to be a super tough rail.
No.
I'm not a fan. I do think the 9 Delight was a little bit interesting with Saez. This one's a little bit sneaky, I would say. She has won over the Keeneland Turf. So you do have that for her. She, it was only a 68, but was a grade 2 race. Like, I think she could be a little bit sneaky here, I would say. Florida bred. I don't think she can win. I mean, I probably will still stay with Free Look. I may put Free Look over Meditate and then an Exacta. Maybe try to throw in a Price in the try or something. But I also think Pleasant Passage, like there are a lot of algorithms here to line up, and
well, the problem, what the problem is, Justin, also that does throw me off. Now, you can't let one algorithm throw you off. One of the things that I do now, I'm really changing. I think I was showing you this last week, but I'm changing up the way I'm eliminating horses. I've let the EquinEdge morning line, which has helped me tremendously to find some bombs. But I sometimes, in this case, like the 4 doesn't look like a 20-to-1 shot to me. It's 19% to win, so it's got the second top win percentage, but the EquinEdge morning line doesn't like it. Now, I can't help that throws me off a little bit, but you have to be careful with that because I've seen situations like that. And although the EquinEdge morning line is just solid and very consistent, sometimes it'll throw some curveballs like that and just be flat out wrong. The GSR is not great in comparison to the field. There's some really nice bred horses. I don't know. The more we chat about this, the more I'm starting to like Pleasant Passage. And this is your type of horse, by the way. First of all, it's the top GSR. It's the EquinEdge long shot. It's got the top SOR, the top win percentage, and it's lower than the odds makers morning line at 7-to-1 compared to 12-to-1. So this, if you're looking at it from that perspective, and this thing wins and we don't bet it, we're going to kick ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to play something a little bit different. The only thing I would say on Free Look is she does have a lower GSR. It's mainly because she wants to go a little bit longer, though, if you look at GSR plus. So, because I did look at this, I'm like, what's the deal here? She just wants to go a little bit longer, isn't the only concern. I think Pratt will give her a great ride. On the morning line, you are right. I love finding the value when it goes down. I don't too much worry about here with the 20-to-1, only because I think she comes from very difficult SOR races when you look in comparison to others, and she can improve. And I kind of like it that it might be higher.
Well, I don't know if I can. I'll make an argument to that point. Yes, in one race it was a 78 SOR, but it was only 5 other horses in the race. It was on a yielding surface, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. And so these horses that come out of the Miss Grillo, the truth is we don't know how strong that race really is. I mean, we really don't.
Yeah, that's true. The only thing I would say, her maiden special race, again, 4 winners came back out of that maiden special at Saratoga. And I actually think I didn't mention this. I think she'll like a firmer ground. I think Free Look will. I don't think she loved the yielding ground. Irads just rode a beautiful ride on Pleasant Passage there to set up, gate to wire win. So
Yeah,
we'll see. It's a great race. I do love this race. I think there's potential value here. So we'll see.
So if you looked at it, is there anybody you'd like on Friday at all? A lot?
I haven't looked. I haven't. This is actually, I did look at the sprint. I did look at the Breeders' Cup Philly sprint. Was that race 6? Yeah.
Right.
So I'll tell you, let me see. That was the only other race I've looked at so far. I do think the outside posts here do well. I think the Speedboat Beach, this Baffert horse, I think is a total wild card. It's
Right.
EquinEdge long shot. The horse is purebred for the turf. Bob may show up with the turf sprinter here. I've seen it in the past. I think it was, Kentucky Derby weekend maybe or something. I do think it's interesting. I'm not on Tyler's tribe. I love this story, but I agree with Megan and a lot of her comments there.
Yeah, Megan was great on the 2 and the 3. So, all right, Justin, we got to let you go. We got a bigger name on the other line. So,
yeah, I agree. She's much bigger. I know she's waiting. I can tell.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on. Enjoy the evening.
All right, my man. We'll talk to you soon. Justin Sampson. Okay. Thank you, Justin. All right. Okay. All right. So our next guest, I've known a long time, and she's the racing analyst and production manager for Horseshoe Indianapolis, and formerly of Indiana Grand. And I don't know why they changed the name. I liked Indiana Grand better, but Rachel McLaughlin. Rachel, how the hell are you? All right, we're getting her on. Hold on. She's not hooked up yet. All right, she's coming. So I have a funny story too to share with you guys. That when I was at TVG and I was on, and we got Rachel on, and that was a funny story when we were on TVG. Do you remember that? So let me set this up, Rachel. So Rachel came on as a guest, and I had my show, and we're on TVG, and she's wearing sandals. And she had it to the side of the desk, and all these perverts are tweeting in like, "Can you move your feet out more?" Like no one wanted to hear or cared what you liked, Rachel. They wanted to see your feet. Sick bastards.
Yep. There's a lot of sick bastards out there, Scotty. You're not one of them. You're a gentleman and a scholar, sir. But yeah, that was hilarious. We had so much fun. Like you literally, it's so funny because like. Anybody that's watching, I'm just going to tell you, I have met Scotty one time, but we have talked on the phone for a lot about horse racing, and I have never, ever, ever not kept in contact with this man because you're the best. And we had so much fun. And I didn't even know we had a handicap harness that day. Yeah. And I didn't even know they threw that crap on me.
They did.
Obviously I came from the background. So I literally looked at it like as I'm in the elevator coming up to you, and I'm like, well, I guess I beat you.
Well, you handicapped like Dave Weaver, right? So
whatever. I'm in good company then. And hey, I golf better than him from what I've seen on your Twitter. So
well, listen, you don't use a pink ball, do you?
Oh no, mine's orange.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Just no pink balls. Yeah. Well, by the way, congratulations on your little one. What's it like having 2 now, and now you got a little boy?
Yeah, well, so you have an older one. She's a teenager, and I have a 7. Yeah, and they're older.
Mine are 30. By the way, I'm about to be a grandfather. By the way.
Oh my gosh, you are. Yeah. What is it? The Armenian blood?
It's strong like bull Armenian blood. Yes.
God, I literally I want to know. I know you know where the fountain of youth is, and if you don't share it, I'm going to be pissed. But having a 7-year-old and an 8-month-old is I'm insane. I just started over. I had it made, but it's nice because you have a built-in babysitter. So thanks for that.
Well, how many more beers in a day now?
Well, I poured it in a fancy Colts glass for you.
Okay, all right. So is that a beer or Truly?
It's a White Claw, sir.
It's a White Claw. Okay, all right, fair enough. That's good. So what's going on with you on your end? Like, Listen, oh, by the way, people might not know this, but Rachel uses EquinEdge, right? I mean,
Oh my God,
I hope that's okay for me to say.
Yeah, since day one. And I promoted it on my Twitter. When you were just telling me that, so I'm a day one EquinEdge person. I mean, you were like texting me, Rachel, how are you hitting this well? Because my percentage is tracked on the website. So I have this, well, when you've been at a track for 12 years, and I told Scotty this, I'm like, well, this is what I do. I take your percentages and I take them with the knowledge that I've known for 12 years. And I was literally crushing. I mean, I still do. I love you guys's, the EquinEdge win percentage. It's amazing. And and Scotty knows if there's ever a time where my like site won't load, I will not send my picks in until I get
that's true. Okay, but I gotta reset this a little bit because it's a little bit, I remember this a little bit differently. So what happened was when we first met, I would go on Indiana Grand and you were competing against Peter Lurie and they would show your win percentage and they would show his win percentage. And if I'm being honest, he was kicking your ass all the time and you were pissed about it. And I said to you, Rachel, when we met, I said, you need to use my numbers, just follow these numbers and you're going to beat Pete. Now, to this day, he's going to watch this. He does not know that that's the case. And he's like, and then he says, I don't know what happened to her. All of a sudden, she's like hitting all the time.
Yeah, no, I will say in my defense, not that I'm trying to be a dude about this, but not that I'm disgracing your race or anything, but or your sex, but he beat me all year. And at the end of the year, my percent was always greater. But I will say after that, it was never a question. Never did he get the edge on me. And I still haven't. No, ever.
Didn't. Well, our secret's out of the bag, but that's okay. And I think I told you this too.
It's EquinEdge. I love it.
Well, but by the way, too, remember, this is a subjective tool. So it's not like you're just playing the win percentages because I'll follow your picks and see what you're doing. You'll take, I see you all the time. Like you're very strategic about the way you do things you'll use the win percent. You lean towards them, I can tell, but then you'll use like an EquinEdge long shot once in a while. Do you like the EquinEdge long shot?
What I use, I'm not going to lie to you. I use your long shot a lot.
Yeah.
If I like a long shot, this is what I do. If I like a long shot and you like a long shot, because there's Scotty's picks in the corner, and I always double check my long shot. And if you like it too, then I'm definitely picking it. And then I didn't even know or understand GSR until recently. And that's one of my long shots in this race that we're talking about, because I love the GSR. Like the genetic strength ratio is amazing. I picked in the, I haven't even told you this yet, Scotty. In the, we do the jockeys, me, Nick Luck, and do the, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. My charity that we raise money for. Right. I beat the boys this year. I had a $40 horse. And I love that horse anyways, just off the PPs. And then when I got on EquinEdge, because I always so I look off a lot of people say, how do you handicap? What's your strategy? When you're a track handicapper, right? I always get the overnight and I do it without any morning line. And then I pick my horses. And then the next day, when the final comes out, then I kind of finalize it. And then you always have to wait for, changes in the morning. But the last thing I do before I send my picks in is I look at the GSR and the win, you guys' like morning line and win percentage. Yeah. And I kind of gauge it like, what's this going to outweigh with what I really like? And like you said, it's pretty spot on. You guys, what I pick is spot on to what you guys have. But then there's a lot that I'll go through and find what I like the GSR and the long shots. But yours is where I found a $40 horse. Yeah. And I ended up getting the edge over all of my dudes like Dan, Anonymous Dan, and Ed. Dan.
Yeah, I was on his show not too long ago at Santa Anita. I was on his show for America's Best Racing. I had so much fun doing that.
Yeah, Dan is literally the best person in the business. I cannot say enough about that man. His wife also, I'm obsessed with her. So yeah, but anyways, I love it. I use it all the time.
So So we're going to cover race 9 now. All right. So who's this horse you found? I mean, the top GSR is Forte. What do you think of Forte?
I like Forte. I just don't think, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I have a long shot and I have a try. I didn't get to tell Brian, your producer, who I love, by the way, and I work with him from TVG. He's amazing. DKK, DeQuoka. I like Forte, and I kept trying to make an excuse for why he would beat Cave Rock, and I didn't want to be a chalk-eating weasel, but I can't go against Cave Rock. But I do like Forte. He has the highest GSR, which is why I love him, and I think that it's going to be definitely, a 3-4 exacta. I will also say, I went back and forth with them as well because Violence is one of my favorite sires. I know we're talking more about EquinEdge, but Violence is one of the most gorgeous, like a horse girl kind of thing. I feel like I'm following Michelle a little bit here, but, that is something that speaks to me a lot. And I don't think that we've maybe seen the best that he can do. I think that last race was a little bit iffy for Forte. He was 4 wide. If he gets a really good trip here, he has a shot to beat Cave Rock, but gosh, his speed rating is just out of this world. And I think that it's his race to lose. So I did go with Cave Rock, but I do like Forte for a close second. But my long shot is Curly Jack. I really like the 9 a lot in here.
Curly Jack. Now, why Curly Jack? What is it about this horse? Like when you looked at this, whether you're looking at a form or you're looking at EquinEdge, what would make you like this horse?
When I looked at EquinEdge, I can't remember. Let me pull it up. Let me tell you what I liked about him. I think it was.
It actually does have. He does have a nice GSR. Actually,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
So the 4 has the highest, but he is right behind the 4 and the 5. Yep. And GSR. He also was it the Win? No, SOR. I think it was it was GSR that I liked.
GSR is very good.
I'm a fan of Tom Amis though too. Yeah. I mean, I just think that he's ran, his Oaks winner at Indiana. He's really helped me a lot in my entire career. And I just think that he's a top-notch horseman, and he shows up on these big days. You know what I mean? I also like him because he kind of has the same story as me. Like he's like, didn't come from racing. He started out, everybody says he's a claiming, trainer or whatever. So I really like him. And he does well off of freshening. This horse hasn't ran for 48 days. So I think with a huge long shot, I would put Curly Jack, in maybe like an exacta box with the 3 and the 4.
I actually, the more you actually put me on this horse. I don't see this horse winning, but I think this isn't the worst long shot in the world. I love Forte. That's going to be my single 100%. Now,
Baffert,
really? Yeah, I'm singling this horse all day long. That being said, you got Baffert and Hernandez on Cave Rock, and they're going to try to go Gates Wire. It was very impressive what this horse did. That field was not that great. The horse needs the lead. And there is some speed in here. The one horse Hurricane J has no chance of winning, but from the rail, this horse is probably going to be sent by Talamo. Here's the interesting part of this. National Treasure is also trained by Bob Baffert, and they add blinkers to this horse. So I was thrown off, and this horse is really, really fast, and they faced each other last time out in the American Pharoah over at Santa Anita. I don't understand it. I don't understand the move. I mean, would Johnny Velasquez on the Baffert horse actually duel with Cave Rock? Because those 2 horses are the fastest horses in the race. But the best closer, bar none, in the race, the horse to beat, you're going to have to catch Cave Rock, but for sure, Forte is going to be right there.
You know what? So when I told you my handicapping style, that's what I did. And when I first looked at it, I said, all right, it's going to be Cave Rock, Forte, and National Treasure. And I literally thought, you know what, I'm going to put this one in for my try because I agree. He's going to blinkers, and his early speed, I think, is going to be killer. But then I looked at GSR, and I was like, I already liked Curly Jack. And so I decided that's going to be my long shot, and I would put National Treasure in for my super. So, Bob.
Well, I got confused on this a little bit, Rachel, because National Treasure, I mean, this horse, it adds blinkers, and this horse got second last time out in the American Pharoah, of course, to K-Rock. But this horse's GSR is 71. It's actually one of the lowest in the field. But I got confused because it's EquinEdge's long shot and it's 16% to win. So, and Bob Baffert is a serious threat when he adds blinkers to a horse. So I wasn't sure.
26%.
But what's he going to do? Like, you're talking about the two fastest horses in the race are both Bob Baffert. So, I mean, would they really duel with each other? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. Now, Forte definitely needs a little bit of pace, but I think this Violence horse is really tough. And look at every single horse that we've been talking about today. Irad Ortiz. Like,
I know.
Right? I mean, he's going to win.
The angle that I was going to say. It's like, it's these days is when people, you know what, and you'll know this, Scotty, not because you drink from the fountain of youth, but you've been around a lot of bettors for a long time. Yeah. There are some guys that just play jockeys, especially on big days. And there's something to be said about that and about Irad Ortiz and about this horse that he's on. So I honestly, if I could pick two that I would think were winners, it would be them. And I know it's, not the best, but, Forte, he has the highest GSR, right?
Forte has the highest GSR, one of the tops, like 90 I've seen in a long
very,
time.
Very high.
It's so neat to see some of these like high metrics, like the high SORs and the high GSRs. It's really cool to see this because you're dealing with some like top-notch horses because in just normal everyday races, you're just not seeing GSRs like that. I'll throw one more horse at you, and that's Verifying, this 5 horse. I don't know if you looked at it or not, but I also think Rosario might have a good weekend, and Brad Cox as well. This horse actually ran really nice in the Champagne, got a second place finish, and it was on a sloppy track. This horse is lightly raced. This horse can improve a lot, and I think this horse is going to sit. So you might want to add this horse as well. It's 6-1 on the EquinEdge morning line. It's got the second top GSR, so I think the 5 could run a good race.
So I have notes on. I'm not lying. I'll show you my paper. I have a writing on K-Rock, Forte, the 10, my long shot, the 9, and the only other horse that I have taken notes on it's like, you know what? You and me, baby.
There we go. That's right. Why don't you come on more often? We got to get you to come on more often.
I got so excited when Brian asked me. I was like, oh my gosh, he wants me to be on his show. Yay. Because I'm such a fan of EquinEdge, and obviously I was a fan of you. But Verifying literally was the only other horse that I thought like I had notes on. First of all, Brad Cox, second route race, he's 30%. And you know me, I'm a dorky horse girl, right? Yeah. Like, you know me, you and I are like friends. I am a big dorky horse person. And a lot of the times I feel like, hardcore handicappers get lost on the science of horses. Yeah. Horses by nature, they are huge about, even if they're top-notch horses, they're creatures of habit. The first time they do it, not a lot of horses figure it out. This is second time for him to run it at a route, and he did damn good running at it first time. Now, granted, it was on slop, so we have to kind of take that into consideration. But I've seen plenty of horses, younger horses that have come around the turn, and they've ran it, and he ran 6 furlongs the first time, and sometimes they look up, and they're like, oh, I did this before. Here, this is the end. And their mind sort of has to catch up. Oh shit, I got a lot more to go. I think that he is going to improve vastly second time on the route, because that's the kind of trainer Brad is. I mean, he really gets them keyed up and preps them for these good races. I mean, he's won Indiana Derbies like that plenty of times that I've picked him on top and said, this horse is doing the same thing that I did last time. He did that to teach it, and now it could possibly win. So I'm totally 100% with you.
Well, and this horse also, I mean, that was a 1-turn mile as well. So it was almost like a sprint race. This horse, look at the GSR, it's an 87. I mean, this horse is going to excel going a little bit longer. This race, this Juvenile has come out really, really tough. It's going to be a beautiful race to watch, and I can't wait. And I'm looking forward to seeing you win this race. And we got to have you on again, because it was just, it's always great to see you. A lot of great memories when you were on TVG, when we did TVG. That was awesome. And then I watch you on Twitter all the time. You are the best person to watch on Twitter, by the way, bar none.
I'm just trying to be myself. I've decided recently everybody can just suck it. I'm just going to be myself. And
speaking of that, I got a question for you before I let you go. I looked at your Halloween outfit and I asked my girlfriend, I'm like, what is she? I didn't know what you were.
Your girlfriend knew, didn't she?
She was, I think were you a witch?
I was Scarlet Witch from Avengers.
Okay. Well, I had no idea. I'm like, I thought you were Dracula. I said, is she Dracula? I wasn't sure.
I know. I get it now. No, I was Scotty. You haven't seen WandaVision on Disney Plus?
I haven't. Listen, I haven't been in Disney Plus in a while. I know you're there right now.
I have tiny kids, so
that's right. All right, it's so good to have you on, and we're gonna talk to you soon. We're gonna have you on soon. Okay, thanks.
I would love to. Thanks, Scotty.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you. Rachel McLaughlin joining us there, and that was awesome. She's always a good interview for sure. Yeah, it was sick. Like I'm sitting there on TVG, and she's on a guest, and we're sitting here talking, and next thing you know, like people are tweeting in and going, can you move your foot out more? Like, was this really happening? Sick. I mean, these people are sick. I'm telling you right now. So our next guest, our final guest tonight, but last but not least, straight up isn't one of my favorite horse personalities, one of my favorite people and just in life, and one of the best people. And I say that because I think it's just so important. You see people, but you really don't know them. And Caleb Keller is just one of the best human beings you're ever going to want to meet. He's a staple on TVG. He's from Bloomington, Indiana, originally, and going to the track. And he went to college out there, and he was broadcasting. I think he was bred to be a broadcaster at age 2 years old. What's up, Caleb?
Scotty, man, good to be with you. One of our favorite weeks of the year.
It is. I'm so stoked. Are you back there right now?
Just flew back today.
You did. What are you going to be doing back there?
So I'm going to be at Santa Anita throughout the races, and I'm going to be tweeting all the thoughts and putting out the tickets. But just really looking forward to the weekend. It was a great Keeneland meet. Went off without a hitch. And I know that they got a tremendous crew that does the breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, which I'm one of the fans that loves to watch it the most. Not the best on the 4 a.m. wake-up call, Scotty. You know that. We've never made a tea time way too early. So I'm happy that they've got the crew that's done that for a long time. But was really pleased with how Keeneland went, and just cannot wait for Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so I just want everyone to know a little bit more about you. Talk about your start into horse racing. Well, first of all, back in Indiana, and just talk about a little bit how you got started.
So I went to college in Bloomington, and the idea that I was bred to be a broadcaster, way back when, CBS used to put the graphics on the basketball games. So when the player would go to the line, it would show their major. And I remember Luke Recker was a player for Indiana in the early 2000s, and it said sports communications. I'm like, well, I've always hoped that I could go to Indiana University, and knowing that they had that major from, actually that free throw on throughout my childhood, I'm like, I'm trying to do that. So it all came together. But I grew up in Floyd's Knobs, Indiana, which is right across the river from Louisville. I was born in Louisville, but grew up right across the Ohio River. And, the Kentucky Derby is the biggest day of the year. And it's a time where we had a family reunion growing up. So even though my family wasn't per se a horse family or a thoroughbred or betting family, everybody loved the Derby. And that was a day that we really prepared for all year, and a time where you can see cousins and distant relatives you haven't seen in a long time, and just have the best day of the year.
Yeah. No, the best. And then, of course, but I think Keeneland's probably one of the most picturesque places you'll ever want to go to, right?
It's the Augusta National of horse racing. And I think that the paddock, Scotty, is what makes it so unique. And they made a subtle change this year where they used to have the horses walk around, like the 1 and 2 would walk around a tree, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. But now they extended it out to make a nice ring around the paddock, and they take a beautiful 2 laps around before they walk out. And, it used to be a little difficult to track down all 12 horses in the paddock to kind of see them. And now they present so well. And I think it was a change that ended up being necessary. I think it's only going to be better for the people at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and it looks like just incredible. A lot of people don't know too, Caleb is got this photographic memory, and so does Joaquin. Now, Joaquin and Caleb were roommates, for a while there, but I have to ask you, who's got the better memory as far as like going back and remembering statistics and who won what race? Is it you or Caleb? Do you guys actually compete in this area? Because you guys are both amazing.
I think he'll be the first one to tell you. He's going to get me on the 80s and 90s, and I'm going to get him on the 2000s and 2010s. So,
Okay.
I mean, Joaquin had this huge box of old VHS tapes, and it had literally the 91 Breeders' Cup, the 93 Derby, the 97 Breeders' Cup, the 88 Derby. I mean, we have plenty of times where we're nerding out watching those old VHSs, but Joaquin, the recall for him decades in the past is really incredible. And I think I might have him beat on what happened 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like I couldn't tell you who won last year. I mean, no joke. Caleb and Joaquin, for that matter, are so amazing. Okay, so on that note, I got to ask you, which jockey has won the most Breeders' Cup races?
Well, Mike Smith's got to be close.
26, Mike Smith. You're sick. You are sick.
Well, I mean, look,
Sick.
Mike's. I think Larry Comas fitted into the call when Caledonia Road won at Del Mar from the 12 post. Wasn't expected to win. Ralph Nix hadn't been at the Breeders' Cup in a long time, and I think he included it in the call. Money Mike. Nobody's won more than him.
Yeah, no, that's just so amazing. Yeah, that was there you go. I set you up. Okay, let's talk about this 2-year-old. We're going to go to race 10. We got race 10, $1 million Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and Silver Knot. Well, first of all, you have to be amazed by Charles Appleby. I was looking up his stats. He's just insane, Caleb. This guy. I mean, you're not shutting him out, are you?
I don't want to say I'm shutting him out, but one thing I want to say about Charlie Appleby, who could be destined to have another huge weekend. I think that Charlie Appleby really mirrors the career on a timeline and how it developed to Brad Cox. Because if you look at 10 to 12 to 15 years ago when they were just starting, you knew they had talent, but they're also working with the lower to middle type crust of racing. But then all of a sudden you get one great horse like a Monomoy Girl, and Charlie Appleby had like an Outstrip that came over, won the Breeders' Cup. Then I think people, the larger syndicates started realizing, okay, this guy can really train, and now we can raise up the stock. And now both those guys are plugged in with Godolphin. Now both those guys are grade 1 tears. It was only 10 years ago where those guys would not even think about competing with a Bob Baffert or an Aidan O'Brien, but here we are a decade later, and they're close to or maybe even passing them.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, obviously you need the stock, but yeah, he's hitting at a tremendous rate. On that note, what are you thinking about his contingent here with this one, anyways, with Silver Knot?
Well, I heard from Davey Lane on the Howard Kravitz podcast, who's a really good European punter, and I really wanted to lock in on what he had to say. And Charlie Appleby told him essentially that he liked his chances, but he was a little uncertain about the 2-year-olds. And that alone makes me want to be a little bit curious. Okay, if you look at his 3 winners, Charlie Appleby, Outstrip, Line of Duty, Modern Games. Outstrip, I got tipped on from Joaquin Jaime and our researcher, June Lee. The horse was live as could be. Modern Games was so live that he was 10 to 1, got bet down to the 5 to 2 favorite and won. And then you look at, Modern Games and Line of Duty, all these horses were so well meant. They were kind of the focal point of the 2-year-old day, whereas I'm not really getting that sense with Silver Knot. And if you look at the last race, nice win, it's a Group 3. But at the same time, Scotty, there was a field of 6, and 5 horses went out there and basically dueled, and Silver Knot sat in behind. He got a great setup. And then the horses that were second and third, they came back in a Group 1 race and were nowhere to be found. And in the start prior, Silver Knot was 3 to 5 and was a well-beaten, disappointing third. So
Disappointing effort, yeah.
I think that you'd be ludicrous to probably leave the horse off your ticket, but from what I've heard and comparing this horse to previous winners for Appleby, can't take the horse on top.
What do you make of when you're talking about these European horses like this? What do you make of when you look at Silver Knot? I mean, this will be the 6th different track this horse has run at.
I think there's a plus. The synthetics got me a little wondering, if this was truly going to be a championship horse next year, I don't think they would ever thought about going on the synthetic at Kempton. But Lopa de Vega has been really strong in these races, mostly for the juvenile fillies. He's had newspaper records, and he's had Aunt Pearl for Brad Cox that won back-to-back years, both in front-running style. So Lopa de Vega gave a speed presence to the European bloodline, which is usually about stamina and staying in class. Lopa de Vega is kind of built for 2-year-old racing.
Now, What do you make? We were looking at a horse earlier in the show, and I saw like some of these horses. Let me find this horse, but it's a foreign horse. It's Meditate. I was blown away because this horse is going to most likely be the favorite in the race, but I was blown away that they've raced this horse 3 different times just in the last month. And you're kind of seeing a little bit of this with this 4 horse here. What do you make of this? I mean, why are they running these horses so much?
Really, America's the only nation that doesn't subscribe to this racing. Look at Australia. Winx would miss a lot of time, and she'd come back, bam, bam, bam. And we've seen it a lot with Aidan O'Brien. So it's somewhat typical. I've seen Aidan O'Brien win the Belmont Oaks a couple years ago on 6 days rest. He's won a lot of Breeders' Cup races on 13 days rest. So I think that the horse is hot right now, and I think that Meditate is one of the strongest horses they've ever brought over for the 2-year-olds, because what Meditate looks like to me is a horse that they feel like should have been a Group 1 winner. Horse has been second twice. Now they say, we got to come over and really try to get this Group 1. So I think that Meditate is really going to be the strongest chance for Europe on Friday.
Yeah, I made this horse my top pick, and then I got a little bit nervous with just with 3 races in a month. But you make a really good point, and that's really nice as well. And this is why you get a lot of big fields here in Europe as well, as they are racing their horses more often. What do you make of the horses here, though, in the States, though, Caleb? They don't seem to be able to handle racing that often. What is that?
I think it has something to do with the training pattern. The pattern is designated for you to have 1 race a month, whereas I feel that in Europe, the way they train them, they're not working on the dirt. You're not expending energy in the morning like you are in American horses, where you work 48 for 4 furlongs. You get a lot out of the morning trails. Whereas Europe, it's really mostly about, are you prepping out at the farm and turned out, or are you in condition where you can start racing? So I think that training on the dirt, Scotty, is what makes the American horses need a little bit more time in between races. Dirt is more demanding than turf, no doubt about it, whether you're training or racing. And the Euros don't train on the dirt. So they have a nice soft training pattern. They build up a chance to run, and it's easier for them to replicate the grass starts.
Now, I've never been back. I have been to Australia, and I've seen they have 356 racetracks down in Australia, and it was so many young people like yourself, Caleb. It was the best time, but they had the most beautiful. These places were massive, like 4 different turf courses and 1 track. It was unbelievable. Like, forget about rails being out and stuff like that. I mean, they had 4 different courses that were just so wide. It was insane. I mean, it's incredible racing back in Europe. And have you been back there to any of these?
No, I think you brought up a great point about the youth, because when I think about Black Caviar, the Australian mare that went for the win at Ascot, when they showed all the young people in the town square that were like waiting with bated breath, you're not going to see a bunch of college kids, casual fans, like watching Flightline. Like, I feel like this whole group of Australian youth were watching Black Caviar. And I just think that Australia, they do a lot of things right, as you could see with the turnout of the Melbourne Cup. And Scotty, I still got that Australian tie that you gave us.
I gave one to everybody.
I've got it still.
I'm glad to see that, because I remember handing them out, and I remember I handed one to Kurt Hoover, and he looked at me like, he's like, "What is this?" Like, it's like, I don't know. I brought for everybody. I brought back. I went to Australia for a month and toured around the country, and happened to go to some of the tracks, and I got ties back for everybody at TVG and brought them back there. I mean, they weren't anything special, but they were from Australia, and so I brought those back, and I don't know, but that was a really fun trip, and it was really memorable in the sense of when you saw those young people. I mean, they're suited up, Caleb. I mean, they took it very seriously, like they were intent. And that's one of the things that we're doing here at EquinEdge. The hope is we'll have the Australian data, and we'll have the same user interface. And so you can play races in Australia. And, that's important to a lot of people a lot of ADWs in the States, because they happen to do pretty well, percentage wise on some of those races. So if they can get more people to play Australia, that'll be great. And so we're hoping to have that maybe next year and have racing down under.
I love it. And the Melbourne Cup the other night, I had to play the race. It's a field of 24. What else am I doing on a Sunday before a flight? And I decided to handicap the handicappers, and just going through, I read like there was one site that put up 40 different Australian handicappers, and they had the reasoning. So I'm just really going off them. And there was 5 horses I picked out of the 25.
Right.
Wheeled them in first and second, first and third. Well, one of them hits, $45 winner, got the price in second, and the favorite couldn't hold on for third.
Oh, no.
But anyways, I'm just like,
you got the exacta though, right?
No, just a trifecta key. They have a 20-cent try. I'm like, this would be a fun thing to go for. But there was a couple really sharp handicappers that had gold trip. They said the horse would like the ground, 9th in the Caulfield Cup, forget about it, had excuses. So I thought it was pretty sharp looking through the Australian handicappers. There's a lot of good ones.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's gotta be on the bucket list for sure. It's really an incredible trip down there, and to see the beautiful tracks and the courses they have. So, all right, Caleb, let's talk about the picks a little bit. We talked about Silver, not a little bit. You like the 10 horse. Let's talk about Webslinger and why you like this Mark Casse.
Okay, so obviously I would normally be scared off because when you've got a low percentage, like that's enough to get me off the horse. Okay, but in this race specifically, yes, we see that Webslinger has the 2% chance. But let's go back and organize the strength of race in this lineup. And I think that the strength of race is where the computer program is going to shine here for EquinEdge, because I feel that the now, I've talked with John Himes at Monmouth. This is a race that just started last year that they're building to be a Breeders' Cup prep. And look at the purse, it's $500,000. So, there's going to be horses that start to come here of better quality. Last year, after the whole thing happened with Modern Games, the horse that was coming out of the now, Dakota Gold, ended up being the post-time favorite and nearly won the race. So this Webslinger, first time out, whatever, the horse runs 4th. Not a bad race. And Jace's Road was just the favorite for Brad Cox in the stakes. Okay, the second at Saratoga, I realize it's a restricted race. The horse was absolutely gigantic. They were down on the inside. They got bet and got Luis Saez, and the horse got stopped and still came flying for second. So now they go to Monmouth, and I feel like everything was stacked against. It's the first time going 2 turns. It's a $500,000 race for a maiden. They have the outside post. The pace wasn't that fast, and the big favorite Oxymore was sitting right off of it. And Mark Casse never runs horses at Monmouth. So everything was stacked against Webslinger, and the horse still came rolling from off the pace. I think this horse has a lot of talent. I think that they're going to underestimate. This horse is 20-1, but EquinEdge has this horse as potentially the highest strength of race. The now, I think it's a race that over the years to come is going to be a better race than people think.
Yeah, you know what else too? I don't mind a horse like this at all. I'm with you, 9-1. But here's the thing: when the top win percentage horse, Caleb, is only 16%, you know that this race is wide open. I mean, that's just a fact. And then when you sort the EquinEdge morning line, you know what I do when there's tough races like this? My go-to wouldn't even be like the GSR. It wouldn't be the SOR. It literally is the EquinEdge morning line. And when you look at that, this is the 4th top win percentage. So there's a high likelihood that the 2, 4, 6, or 10 wins this race. I'm obviously testing all the time on the site, but that's what I'm seeing. And I agree with you. I think Webslinger might surprise. And I think you're going to, people, they're very much influenced by the odds makers morning line. I think this is where the EquinEdge morning line can really help you. But like you said, has been facing nice horses. There's nothing wrong with the GSR. It's a 71. That's a good GSR in what appears to be a tough race. And plus it appears that possibly Silver Knot isn't all that great. So sometimes when you like maybe a price horse, you do need to look to see if the favorite is possibly vulnerable, if it's all that, because you have a better chance of winning with your price horse if the favorite isn't so great. And when I look at, there's really no really great favorite near, is there?
No, that's the one thing I wanted to ask you, Scotty, because I was one of the lucky ones to be one of the first ones to get into the system. And I feel like I got a great handle on a lot of the aspects. The pace, this is with all due respect to people out there that make pace numbers. The Scotty pace numbers is not even close, are the most accurate that I've ever seen. And to the point where anybody that uses the program that I talk to or show, they're just, it's like, it's genie-like. So the pace numbers, my man, are incredible. I've always wanted to know, though, how to use the equine morning line to get into my picks.
So I'll give you an example. So what I try to do is I don't want just one metric. So you have like the EquinEdge morning line, you've got the win percentage, the pace, the SOR, the GSR, right? So you're talking about, and then the EquinEdge top pick and second pick, and then the EquinEdge long shot. So I mean, you've got like 7 different algorithms there. What I'm looking for is, especially when it comes to a single, I'm trying to find one that maybe has 3 or 4 of, it's somewhere like in the top 3 of 3 or 4 of those is what I look for, right? And but the EquinEdge morning line, I'll give you an example. So I singled this was about a year ago, but it was 20 to 1 in the odds makers morning line. And I was playing a horizontal. So this is where I think the EquinEdge morning line can help, Caleb, where you go, this horse was 9 to 2 on the EquinEdge morning line, 20 to 1 on the odds maker. And like we were talking about, a lot of people are influenced by the odds makers morning line. So I knew when I did my pick 5, as long as it's not in the first leg, I knew that there was a high likelihood that people would not use that horse. I singled the horse because it was also EquinEdge's long shot, and it had the 3rd top GSR. So I singled that horse, and I made sure I spread in the other races, and I hit a hell of a ticket singling that horse because I played it like it was a 4 to 5 shot because it wasn't just one metric, it was a few. So the EquinEdge morning line, the reason is this: the odds makers, many of them do a good job, many of them don't, but none of them are going to beat an algorithm, right? So the EquinEdge morning line, we know statistically is better than any other odds maker. Now, it doesn't mean that maybe it's off in a race. That can happen. But overall, the EquinEdge morning line is more accurate. And so you can find some weaknesses and some opportunities with the EquinEdge morning line. And there are a lot of people doing fixed wagering, Caleb, in Europe that are using EquinEdge. And what they're doing is they're taking the win percentage, of course, the live odds, and the EquinEdge morning line, and they're trying to find profitability that way. But I know many people that are doing that, and I know some people actually got cut off on that. So it's not like the tote wagering. When it comes to fixed odds, you're winning too much money, they're going to cut you off.
Okay, now sticking with this juvenile turf, Scotty, let's look at another part of the algorithm, and let's look at the pace.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a race that has a very clear pace setup, which I think is going to lend itself to a horse that can finish. Okay, if we go in order, let's go in order of post position from 1 down.
Right.
Okay, I look at this race and I see that the inside 3 have pop. The 3, which I don't see on there.
Oh, hold on here.
Yeah, let's put the.
I eliminated it. Okay, there it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's put them all in there. Let's put the 5 and 12 just for.
All right, let's do that. There we go.
So, okay, now I look at the inside 3. The 3 we know has speed, is the long shot stretching out. Just went gauge wire. The 2 is very forward. We don't see Jeff Mullins training horse to sit in second, and the 2 is a really impressive horse, and we see the big win percentage. The 1 also breaks sharply. Okay, so there's a pack on the inside, 1, 2, 3 that all get out. Okay, now let's go to the other end of the gate. Let's go all the way out there to the outside, and we're going to see kind of the same thing. When you look at the outside of this race, I see horses that are going to have to pop out. The 14 has got the 79.
Yeah.
The 13 has been forward, and the 12 missed the break last time, but was right off of sprint paces. So this is a race where I see 3 from the inside and 3 from the outside that I think have to set up a really sharp pace. And that, to me, says the horse is in the chunk in the middle, and the winner is Web Slinger, maybe the Jet. I think they're going to get a nice setup.
They are. You know who else is going to get a nice setup? That's a pretty nice horse, has a good SOR and good GSR, is the EquinEdge long shot Major Dude. This horse is live. And by the way, watch Mustache. This is just a hunch play for me, but this horse has some talent, and this horse might run good. But I'm with you, Web Slinger. But watch out for Major Dude, the EquinEdge long shot, the 13. I wouldn't leave that horse out as well. And I'm with you. I think there's going to be so much speed in this race. This Gaslight Dancer, Caleb, is so fast. I was worried a little bit. Could this horse get away? Because stretching out's not going to be a problem. This horse has an 85 on the GSR, and it's stretching out for 6 furlongs on the inner turf. This horse actually is going to be really, really fast. So I don't think the horse can win. But the point is the other horses that need to be near the pace are going to be going a lot faster, which means it's going to set it up for a horse to come from behind. I agree.
Yeah, the 14 looks a lot like the Michael Maker 30 to 1 shot that won last time at Keeneland, because they were forwardly placed. They were also coming off losses in New York. The one thing about the 14 in this lineup is that this American sprinters stretching out have a really poor record in the race. Now, the Europeans going from 6 to a mile or 7 to a mile have done pretty good, but
very good.
The American sprinters, it's almost been like the Field of Dreams line that's really hard to come across.
Yeah, no, they don't do well at all. And this horse needs a lead, clearly. They're going to be going so fast up front in this mile, and which makes me not love the 2 horse that much. Mullins has been fantastic. Smith is having an amazing year. I mean, he was ridden for dead. But when their styles are so close to a fast pace, Caleb, and the pace number will indicate that, the 2 horse can rate some, yes, but its tendency is to be near the pace, and the 9 the same thing. And so you're looking at somewhere in the bottom here of horses that are going to be finishing. And I don't really know the style of Silver Knot. It doesn't look like maybe this horse is all that. And so now you're getting down to the Mustache, and you're getting down to Major Dude. You're getting down to Web Slinger. I don't know much about this really good horse. I looked at it a little bit. It seemed a little weak to me, but it's not really the best breaker.
Yeah, really good. I thought disappointed at Kentucky Downs. That was not a hard field in the Juvenile, and that horse had a layover number and still couldn't get the win. But, 2 more, Scotty, we got to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 1 Victoria Road for Aiden O'Brien. I think that Aiden, what happened over the years, because he had this 5-year stretch where he didn't win a race in America. I think Aiden got overconfident because Aiden used to bring his top horses. And then he brought his second best horse, and they would still win. And then he started looking a little further down the bench, and then all of a sudden he was going too far down the bench. This is the year, especially with Meditate, and I think that Victoria Road has class. I think he's now going to bring over some better 2-year-olds. And the race 2 back at Deauville for Victoria Road, it wasn't even a graded, and beat Blue Rose Sin, who was going to be the favorite in the Juvenile fillies turf, and came back to win a Group 1 on Arc Day. So the 1's got some good qualities. They break out of the gate. The horse is competitive. The horse is getting better. And then you got Aiden O'Brien and Ryan Moore. So I think the one doesn't have to worry about going to the lead, I don't think. But Breaking Sharp could sit behind the 2 and the 3 and that outside crush of speed horses. And then Wayne Catalano, Scotty, since the spring's been calling a shot on this, and the winner is. He basically told us, look, guys, you got to come on and interview me, man. I got a lock for you today. So the first April 28th, final week of the spring meet, he didn't think the horse could lose. And we did an interview. Horse came flying from off the pace. And then he told Scott Hazelton earlier in the day on October 9th, he said, you're not going to believe this horse looks like a monster. You're going to see it for yourself when it comes over. He got bet down from 10-1 to 4-1 and won very nicely from the 12 post. Now, a lot of players are going to say, well, he got the 45 setup, which I agree with. He did get a fast pace. But don't forget, the start prior, he got soft ground and no pace. So maybe he's not as good as the Bourbon, but he's better than the third in the with Anticipation. And that still puts him in the running for the race.
You know what I'm seeing too, Caleb, with this horse? If you look at the win, now that was a sprint race, of course, but coming from behind, breaking 10th and winning that race, and then breaking 10th, is this a horse that just needs to sit back and then when they go fast and they make a run?
Joel Rosario, one thing I love about Joel Rosario is that he's the best jockey at first and last. And I think in Joel's mind, he wants to pick. Like, am I going to go for the lead or am I going to go from dead last? So that makes the tactics here very easy with the 6, who we've already got the speed going around us. So Rosario's going to take a big hold, and I'm expecting this colt to come on running late.
And, this horse is EquinEdge's second pick, but you can't ignore that Flavian Pratt chose the 8 horse, I'm Very Busy, over the 6 horse, and the winner is, I would imagine.
Okay, so if in a dream world, I think there is a chance that Pratt would take, and the winner is. But you've got, your domestic
Chad
spendings
Brown
out there. You've got the future with Chad Brown. You've got the fact he moved to New York. So I'm Very Busy was really awesome on debut. They got bet, which is no surprise. Came up the inside. It was a little bit of a fortunate trip, but still powered away. And then in the Pilgrim, Scotty, that was a weird backtrack. Like, it looked like I'm Very Busy was going to win by 5 3/4 lengths. So to get turned away by 1 whole length, maybe I'm being overcritical, but everything about I'm Very Busy was looking so good until that final furlong of the Pilgrim, and he just got turned back very defiantly.
And look at the EquinEdge morning line. Again, that's not the tell-all. You have to look at all the algorithms in combination of each other. And I've certainly seen the EquinEdge morning line, especially when you have very competitive races. That's where you might see, something like this. But 15-1, obviously the win percentages think the horse has a better chance than that. But 15-1 on the EquinEdge morning line for connections like Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. I was surprised to see that. I'm completely thrown off with this race. I wasn't sure about Silver Knot. You don't seem to be that happy. That maybe, and the winner is, and because I think Joel Rosario is going to have an amazing weekend along with Irad Ortiz.
I totally think so. And you're crazy if you don't think that jockeys matter the most on this weekend. And one thing I want to say about Keeneland and how the turf course translates to the Euros. One of the reasons I think the Euros do extra good at Keeneland is it is somewhat of a European style course. Now, it's not Kentucky Downs, which always gets that moniker. But when you think about the turns, they're a little bit broader than, let's say, Del Mar and Santa Anita, where lure can whip around there, or you got horses that really tightly go around those bends. And also, Scott, they give out all of the greatest stakes trophies on the turf course. So I had the chance to walk out there on a good few occasions, and it's very thick. Like this would be like a nice medium cut of rough, as opposed to some California tracks would be more like fairways. So I think that Keeneland somewhat mimics European style racing with
more like a good surface.
Totally agree. And I think that it's a lot different at Keeneland than the two tracks in California.
Wouldn't that favor a horse then like this 4-horse Silver Knot?
I mean, look, Silver Knot, like underestimate the horse at your own peril. The Damn God Given was a Group 1 winner. It's Charlie Appleby. I think he's won like 6 of 11 Breeders' Cup starts, which is insane. It's Will Buick. It's an inside pose. But all that being said, him kind of dropping the dime that he doesn't feel like his 2-year-olds are as good as his older horses. The fact that he got a perfect setup in the autumn, and the fact that the horses that he beat came back and were very poor in a Group 1, and he was a well-beaten favorite in just the field of 3. This horse was third out of 3 at 3 to 5. So I'm going to have the horse defensively, which I don't like to use. I don't like to go defensively, but on a day like this, I don't want to get blown out by the Appleby. But I'm against this horse for what I've heard. Yes, at the price needs respect, but I think there's other better options.
No, I'm with you on Web Slinger too. I think you might have something here. Again, when you're talking about the top win percentage being 16%, and I actually think this horse could have it tough up front. It didn't really beat much. It was ultra impressive. Like when you see this horse like physically, it was pretty impressive to visually to watch this horse pack the wallop. But of course, and I'm rooting for Mike Smith and Jeff Mullins, but I think you might have something with the 10, and the winner is. I think you've nailed this race. The Victoria Road is a horse that I struggle with a little bit. Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, they've not really been doing well of late as it applies to coming here in the States.
You can't dispute it. Although Keeneland, he's been great at Keeneland. Like I know we're digging back, but we're digging back to Hit It a Bomb, or we're digging back to Found, or just a couple years ago where he runs 1, 2, 3 in the mile. I don't think the Aidens have loved the quick California ground. And I think, again, he was reaching too far down his bench. But, Victoria Road, I think, is going to get bet, Scotty, because I feel like a lot of people are picking the horse, which, I don't think is a bad thing. I think everybody's seeing that this one beat Blue Rose Sin. This one has got improving form. But, I think this one is going to be a pretty popular pick. I did have him in the top 3 just based on the position and where he's at. But a lot of people are going to be tying on to bet this one.
So are you going to play a horizontal, Caleb?
So, it's all about the pick 5 on a day like this.
It is.
And I think that this is one where I like the prices. Of course, I'm going to be playing the 10. I think that I'm going to try to build the day around Meditate, Scotty. The way I look at it is, okay, so Meditate, here's what I'm thinking. I'm looking for a big single of her in the Juvenile fillies turf. And then also, I'm going to come back and put her in second in the try and super in that race. She's never missed the top 2. And with her Group 1 class, I got a tough time if she is what they say that she is, her missing the top 2 in this one. So if she wins, then I'm going to be feeling great about the pick 5. And if she loses as the favorite, well, maybe something crazy will happen there for the try and super. So I'm not going to have her down 3rd and below, but I think that Meditate is going to be one that I'm really going to key on. And then one work that I liked, I thought that National Treasure was moving really well late in the race. Can he beat Cave Rock? Let's see. But, that's a classic Baffert move. Blinkers on. They get the experience. Then the blinkers come off. And they were just guiding Cave Rock around there as they kind of knew who was going to win the race, as a lot of those seemed like they're with how much speed comes out of the barn. But, man, he looked really good on the work show through the wire and out around the turn. And I'd like to see if he can come up and pull the upset in the Juvenile.
Well, they've added blinkers, but I mean, can you imagine that they're going to duel with with Cave Rock? I mean, could you see that happening? I mean, because those are the two fastest horses in the race.
This comes up all the time with Baffer, and somehow they actually just run 1-2 the whole way around track.
I know.
Arrogate and American Freedom was a classic example. Arrogate's got the 1, and American Freedom's got the 2, and they both got speed, and literally, shoot, 1-2, they went the whole way around, and nobody ever got in front of them.
What do you think? I was so impressed with Forte and the breeding of this horse and out of violence, and I just loved that effort last time out. I mean, this is a really nice animal. I mean, do you think it's just they're not going to catch him? That Cave Rock, and I mean, these are the 3 horses, right? I thought the 5 as well, Verifying, was decent, but what do you think of Forte?
Well, Forte, there was a big paradox with Forte at Keeneland because the handicappers, in a way, were really against. This was the morning line favorite who floated way up for Pletcher and Irad. And everybody said, okay, well, he won at Saratoga, but it was a sloppy track, and the favorite bolted out, and he got a dream trip. But the connections loved Forte going into the race. So the handicappers were skeptical, but not the people that are around the horse in the morning. So that tells me that Forte was live. And also, Scotty, speaking of Pletcher, there was the exact same thing on that Fall Star Saturday. All the handicappers were against Annapolis. Oh, I got an easy lead at Saratoga. He was 15 cents on the dollar. The connections were really, really excited about Annapolis, and I believe he set a course record. So Forte and Annapolis, people are going to underestimate them again for Pletcher coming into the race, and both the connections absolutely adored their chances in the race.
Yeah, I think that they're going to get speed. I will say this horse, Cave Rock, is so naturally fast and pulled away in that last race over at Santa Anita. Now, I don't think the field was that strong, but the field in the Del Mar Futurity was pretty strong, and that was an 80 SOR group. Now it was going 7 furlongs, but this horse has done nothing wrong, and the cruising speed of this horse is just tremendous. I know they're adding blinkers to National Treasure. This horse is 16% and EquinEdge's second pick, but is it the type of horse that needs the lead? I don't know. Can this horse really rate? I don't know.
This is a race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile on the dirt, that if you look at the last decade, probably has the most fast paces, which makes sense because you got young horses competing for supremacy. They're feeling great about themselves. They burst out of there. And a lot of times horses that you don't even expect in the Juvenile to be on the lead are on the lead. Now, last year, Corniche got an easy lead, and it was a really poor Juvenile last year. And I don't look at this one as being an essential quality Jackie's Warrior 45 type pace. But at the same time, how many times over the last decade have you looked back at the Juvenile and said, boy, that was a tepid pace? It rarely happens. Maybe everybody is afraid of Cave Rock. There is definitely a chance of that. But this race, it only makes sense that all these boys are feeling good about themselves, and they've got sprint speed, and they're in front of a big crowd. The Juvenile always seems to have a really jacked up pace early.
It sure does. And look at Cave Rock. I mean, this is the lowest, at least on Friday anyways, Caleb, the lowest EquinEdge morning line I've seen. I mean, it's 45 on the odds maker, but 7-5, I haven't really seen that. I mean, really the EquinEdge morning line is saying that this is, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But when you look at the win percentages, it's, add the 10 in there. But would a horse like Lost Ark fit in here anywhere?
I think the Lost Ark fits in a peg below. I have a tough time seeing him come up to beat the stablemate and to beat the California Speed, but this was a really bad trip to finish 6th in that race. And they got a top. This is the Breeders' Cup. And if you think back to, Hot Rod Charlie, he was 90-1 in the Juvenile. His brother was Matoli, who literally just won the Breeders' Cup the year before, and it's called the Breeders' Cup. So when a horse like Lost Ark is a half to nest and comes from a great family and top connections and a bad trip, I would not put it past this horse to show a lot better on Breeders' Cup Day.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really bad break. I mean, look what that horse did nothing wrong in the first 2 races. And then, I think this, this horse could rebound, but Flavian Pratt, it jumps off, but, and ends up on Blazing Sevens, which is another horse I think we should at least talk about for Chad Brown. He seems to be Chad Brown's go-to person right now. And Chad Brown is really having an amazing year. I didn't really know what to make about the Champagne. I mean, won easily. Did you have an opinion about that race?
I didn't think it's as strong as the Champagne has been in recent years, and that's kind of what I'm going off of. You think about the Champagne last year with Jack Christopher, and you think about the Champagne with Good Magic, and you think about some really vintage additions. This one, I wasn't necessarily feeling that. And I think that Chad Brown is still looking to show a big tiger late in the race. Like, he's had horses win these races that get good setups. Early voting was prepped and primed, and cloud computing, same thing. I'm ready to see a Chad Brown come out and kind of rip the heart out of a strong competitor that keeps on running. We haven't really seen that.
No.
And for Blazing Sevens to win this race, he's got to come out there and really take down some bears. And I don't necessarily know if I'm seeing it.
I'm with you. I don't see it as well. I would like to ask you about Verifying, because I actually thought this horse with Brad Cox might show up. Now, I wasn't, again, I wasn't sure about the Champagne like you, but I liked this horse. I liked the maiden win, and I thought maybe this horse had some upside. Tremendous breeding, by Justify. And I don't know, what do you think of the breeding here?
Well, I think that it's great being half to Midnight Bisou, who was just close to winning a couple of Breeders' Cup distaffs.
Yeah.
And I think that Brad Cox, this horse could be totally different coming from off the pace. I think that he's kind of found himself on the lead with Natural Talent on debut. He found himself close to the pace in what was a field of 6. This could be the time where Verifying says, all right, what if I come back to 6 or 7 and start to coil up a run? Then Brad Cox and Rosario wins, and he's a big price, and everybody's going to be upset. So I think he needs to find something, but it could be in the cards.
Yeah, I'm with you, Caleb. I'm with you. All right, my man. Dude, you're the bomb. Thanks for hanging with us and staying. I'm so glad you were the last guest and hung there. And you're always so prepared. Always, I knew we could talk about any race here or any of these horses or the connections, and you would know. I wish you all the best of the luck, and I hope to have you on. I hope you'll come on again, and we can even talk longer, and maybe hang for a show or something, and we could do something a lot of fun. So I know that just from the responses, people love having you on. Thank you, man.
And before I go, I got to say, Scotty, you're putting on a clinic at Keeneland. Like the last day Super Chow, paid $10.96. You had the horse as easily the best percentage, easily the best speed, pretty much the best GSR in the race. So, I mean, that was like free money at $11. West Willpower wins the Fayette, literally had a 71 pace, and everybody else had like a 40 something and on down from the rail. So the system's so impressive. And going back to when you were telling me that this was in the works some 3-4 years ago at Los Alamitos, and to see where it is now and to see how it's truly moving the pools as it absolutely should.
And it's so funny you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but and I was just going to bring this up before you did. I would drive you and anybody would listen crazy because this thing didn't look like this. You remember? I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm doing this, and you know me, I get it rambling, and you're like, oh, okay, and then to see how it's developing now is just incredible. And Caleb, and for those out there, when you see the stuff. And now when I say this, but when you see what's coming next year, we've added a lot of developers. We're figuring this out now. It's taken some time. It's going to be incredible. And that pace number is insane. How sick is this pace number?
No, it's nuts. And I absolutely love it. And I think one of the first things you told me when the platform started is that you had great customer retention. And the people that use that, as we heard from Rachel, she's going to be using it tomorrow and the next day and next year. And everybody that really gets a hold of the program, I think, comes back and realizes how special it is. So I just want to say congratulations. You put so much time into it. You got a great team, and I'm always happy to come on with you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. And we'll talk to you soon, okay?
You got it.
Okay. Caleb Keller, everybody. Thanks so much, Caleb. Caleb's the best. Well, I want to thank you all for joining tonight. First night, we, of course, that's going to conclude the coverage for this particular show. But I want to give a big shout out to our guests. We had Megan, of course, Michelle, Justin Sampson, Michelle, of course, McLaughlin, and Caleb Keller, who's absolutely my favorite. And I'd also like to give a big thanks to my team, Anna, Emmeline, Riley, Brad, Alexis, the design team, and of course, producer Brian. This is the first produced show that we've had. Brian did an amazing job tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you saw a big difference. And don't forget, we have a show tomorrow night, same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be covering, I think, the first 5 races of Saturday's card. And then we're going to do Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, covering the last part, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic. So thank you all for watching. I'm Scotty McKeever, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 8:30 as we'll cover 5 more races from Breeders' Cup. Good night, everyone. Thank you.